Hey, How's it going, everyone? My name is Israel. Thank you once again for joining me. I have a very, very, very special guest today. His name is Gustavo, the President and CEO of PowerISA. Let me go ahead and bring him in. Hi, Gustavo. How are you?
Right. Hey, thanks, Israel. Thanks.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. And Gustavo, for people who don't know you yet, who is Gustavo Munoz? Outside of business, inside of business.
Yeah, well, I'm a binational, entrepreneur, real estate guy. Funny story. I didn't start in real estate. I was trained as a software engineer. This is a long time ago, right? Late '90s, early 2000s. And I started my career in real estate. That's how I came to the U.S. right as an engineer. And then a life happened, became a real estate guy. I got into real estate. My wife got into real estate first, then I got into real estate. But one thing I like to think about is that I kind of brought that systems thinking into real estate. And, I became, I found an opportunity, right? So I think, I like finding opportunities and, solving problems for people. So, I think I'm a problem solver, right? At the core.
Nice, man. Nice. And I love that, man. I think everything is about problem solving. I think if you solve someone's problems, it's easy to make a living, right? Would you say?
Yeah. You have a
So
business. You have a business. If you can solve somebody's problem, you have a business, I think.
absolutely, absolutely. And you went from engineering to building one of the biggest ISA companies in North America. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, I love to tell you it was like some master plan or, something that was carefully coordinated. It just so happened that I was, in my career, as a software engineer, and I got a terrible boss one time, right? It started that way. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a 6 month sabbatical, right? I need a break from this job. And I'm going to help out my wife at a real estate team because she was, a solo real estate agent. She wanted to build a team. I was pretty good at team building. I was a manager, at Microsoft at the time. It was a long time ago. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a break. And before I find my next position, I'm going to help my wife build her team for a few months, and then I'm going to come back right to corporate. And that was, at this point, 13 years ago, and I haven't gone back. So, I think it's a kind of a good thing. But, I got into real estate that way. It was just kind of, just how things worked out. And when I was in real estate, I kind of kept my eyes open and I saw an opportunity, right? I saw an opportunity because people needed help on the phone. And that's fundamentally it. I saw how hard that was, how challenging it was for agents to just do everything. And I ran with that opportunity. And then we ended up moving back to Mexico because that's where I'm from originally, my wife too. And I tried running my real estate team remotely. This is more than 10 years ago. And before remote work was cool and that was like a thing, and it just didn't work out, right? Real estate is such a person to person, belly to belly, full contact sport that it just didn't work out. But one thing that did work was running a remote ISA team, right? I also built that here in country. And immediately I had people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Gustavo, can you hire a person for me? Can you train them down there, supervise them, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that." And that's how it started. It was four people. Four people signed up with me, like when they heard what I was doing. And then over the next year and a half, I transitioned away from my real estate team, right? And then just did this full time. I ran an ISA company.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Just I definitely think, I'm a big believer of, you can't do everything by yourself. You need help. You need help, and most importantly, you have to delegate certain responsibilities, but ultimately keep the money making activities to yourself, right? Um,
Yeah.
so just for people, for agents to understand, what is an ISA for you? Can you explain that, what an ISA is for like a brand new agent?
Yeah, definitely. ISA stands for Inside Sales Agent. It's a term that we borrow from the SaaS industry, e-commerce. They're usually called SDR, Sales Development Rep, right? That's kind of where it comes from, the term. But basically, think of it as like a telemarketer for real estate, right? Like a phone assistant for a real estate agent, because that's been around for a long time. within the industry. It's only about 10, 15 years ago when we took the term ISA that came from kind of SaaS community, and we took the terminology, but the role has existed in real estate for a long time. So think of it as a phone assistant for real estate agents, helping them make outbound prospecting calls, helping them convert inbound lead opportunities by pounding the phone, those text messages, trying to get you in front of more motivated buyers and sellers.
Wow, no, that's amazing. I think it's an amazing opportunity if some agents are able to get these type of services. But what do you think? Why do you think most agents struggle on following up on the leads, or struggling on following up with leads that just came in? Why do you think the agents struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question because I don't know an agent that doesn't have an issue with that, struggles somehow with reaching out to their leads. If you're generating inbound leads, you got to reach out to them. Speed to lead is important, and then trying to contact them, and then you contact them, and you got to follow up with them and kind of see where they are. Because if you're talking about inbound internet leads, like on average, they're going to convert in the 18 to 24-month mark on average, right? And that's easier said than done. Okay. That's following up with someone for 18, 24 months on average is kind of a tall order. And Israel, agents have to wear a lot of hats, right? As real estate agents, we're asked to be the transaction coordinator, the salesperson, the telemarketer, the therapist, the negotiation expert, the marketing expert. We're asked to do all of these things, right? So yes, doing that follow-up call and telemarketing role is hard, because we have to do all these different things. So something has to suffer, and sometimes it's lead generation. So I have a lot of empathy for real estate agents that struggle to make their calls because they usually have a lot of things to do.
Oh, absolutely, man. And, it's sometimes a little bit overwhelming sometimes, to be honest. And I'm
Yeah.
still in the business. I'm still producing, and it's sometimes very overwhelming. But lead generation is like, in my opinion, one of the most important things, because without that, your business is gonna either go down, it's not gonna go up.
Yeah.
You guys make thousands of calls between you and your ISAs. What patterns have you guys noticed right now about the consumers out there today?
Oh, yeah. So the number one trend I'd say, like now, as opposed to 10 years ago when I started this company, it's just harder to get people on the phone. That's like period, end of story. It's hard to get people on the phone. The anti-spam technology is like a generation better than it was 10 years ago. If anything, people avoid phone calls more than ever. I think getting people on the phone has gotten harder. But at the same time, nothing converts leads like a two-way conversation live. A
Yeah.
live two-way conversation. That's still the best way to make a connection, to build a relationship, to convert them into a client, into an in-person appointment. Nothing beats that. So both things remain true. It's harder than ever to get people actually on the phone, and nothing converts better than that two-way live conversation. Not a text message, not an email, not a DM, right? At some point, those tools, the purpose is to get someone to take your call, even now in 2026.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How important do you think a dialer is to have in
Oh,
today's?
what's that? I missed that question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no, no. How important is it for an agent to have a dialer as one of their systems?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so important. And and with what I just mentioned about the anti-spam technology, you got to be careful using your personal number if you're calling inbound internet, even inbound internet leads, or you're doing outbound prospecting. You've got to be able to. I mean, you shouldn't do that, even inbound leads with your personal number, because it can easily be tagged as spam. Right? You want to protect, your personal line, your direct line, and as much as possible. So it is important to have, depending on what we're going to do, you might need a single line dialer specifically for lead follow-up and conversion. You might need an outbound multi-line dialer. It really depends what kind of list you're calling, but it's necessary, it's essential to have a separate phone system for lead contact, lead follow-up. And then once they're a client of yours, you can give them their direct line. I think that's fine. But I think it's more important than ever as an agent to protect, the integrity of your phone number. Otherwise, your calls don't even make it through to the other person. It shows up as spam likely. On some carriers, it won't even ring because they think your number might be a scammer, a robocaller, or an unsolicited call.
Wow, that's very good to know. I never realized that. I do have my personal phone. I do have a dialer, but I do prospect once in a while with my personal phone. And thank you for that
Yeah.
advice. So if, you work with hundreds of ISAs. What do you think the difference is between an average ISA and an elite ISA? Would you say?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah. So I'd say so. Here's the hardest part about hiring a really good person, right? Because you can interview a lot of people. We interview probably hundreds of people every month, right? Hundreds of candidates. And the challenge with this job is that a good chunk of it is very hard to interview for. Okay. Interviews. An interview is great at telling you like someone's language skills, their accent, because we hire people outside the US, their accent, their kind of verbal ability. The interview is really good at that. What the interview is not good at, and I can say this with a lot of authority, Israel, because I've been doing this for 10 years. I've interviewed thousands of people at this point. The interview is not great at determining someone's grit, grit, their tenacity, right? Because that's what this job takes. What separates a mediocre ISA from an elite ISA? They just have more grit, right? They're able to talk to more people, get to 99 no's to get to that one yes, and they can just do it effortlessly, right? And that is something, I'll be super honest with you. It's, in my opinion, that's not something you can teach a person. Okay.
Mhm.
A lot of people can do, I mean, many people can do the ISA role. The elite ISAs just have more tenacity and they have that grit, and they're just more fearless than other people. I think that's what really separates the best ones, from everybody else.
Wow, that's good to know. It's always it's kind of like everything else. Would you say? Like there's always that 1% that always exceeds in something, right? You got that Michael Jordan, that Steve Jobs, the Elon Musk. You got to find that ISA for sure, man.
Yeah.
If what's one of the lead sources right now do you think that agents are kind of like missing out on, or definitely should look into in regards to lead gen?
Oh, I'd say uh, an opportunity for most agents, like in most markets. I think you've got to find a way to make outbound prospecting work for you. That can be as simple as something like circle prospecting. It can be, more skill based, like calling expired listings, canceled listings for sale by owner, absentee owners. It can be, something more specialized like probate. It can be notice of default. I think you should find a way to make your business prospecting based, because that is a second only to your personal database. It's the most cost effective way to generate business, the most cost effective way. And Israel, over the last few years, because of this change in technology, the anti-spam technology getting so much better, a lot of people gave up on cold calling, right? They don't do prospecting anymore. Oh, it doesn't work anymore. And I think that's why we're seeing better results, right? Because so many people stopped doing it, right? Especially in real estate. I think they kind of bought the idea that this no longer works. And that's why we're able to get results from it, even in 2026. Because if you can talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people a day, you can get great results from prospecting.
Wow, yeah, no, I think, in my opinion, cold calling, I think, is the number one lead source, one way to generate leads. What industry outside of real estate are you using ISA more effectively?
So we work with, we mostly work with real estate. I'd say we're like 95% real estate, but we do have a handful of other industries that use ISA. I would say this: any industry where you have inbound lead opportunities coming in, whether that's from like Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, whatever, they have inbound opportunities, can use an ISA. Like any industry that has that. Any industry where you can use outbound prospecting to generate potential clients, to generate leads, can benefit from ISA. So that's like most industries, right? Other than
Yeah,
maybe brick and
absolutely.
mortar, like they rely on, foot traffic, or real estate. Other than brick and mortar that want people to walk in, everyone else I think can benefit from having someone help them out. Make calls, reach out, convert those inbound opportunities, or lead generate for them from a cold list and generate new prospects. So I think it's pretty wide open.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Every time I talk to like a construction worker or a barber shop, like, hey man, you should maybe get an ISA, or try to maybe figure that out. That fits in your business, in my
Yeah.
opinion. What systems do you think have changed um, businesses today? what type of systems do you think agents really need today in order to kind of take their business to the next level using an ISA?
Oh, that's a really good one. So we mentioned it before. I think you have to have a really good dialing system. You have to have a reputable vendor. There's a lot more compliance than there was, 10 years ago. So you have to, and the typical vendors that we see a lot out there, Vulcan 7, Mojo Dialer, those systems have stood the test of time. They've been around for 10, 15 years, sometimes more than that, right? And they've faced, all these different legal and I actually know I have a lot of insight into this. They face a lot of legal challenges and lawsuits, and they've come out on top because they do things the right way. So I think using a reputable system to make calls and be compliant is the name of the game. Because if you come out, violating FCC rules, violating the TCPA, this is 2026, you're going to get in trouble, right? You're going to lose a lot of money. And you and your brokerage and your broker and your office are going to be liable, right? So I think that's really changed from 10 years. 10 years ago, I think compliance was an afterthought. I think 2026, compliance is essential.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And personally, I personally use Vulcan 7 and I love it. I always recommend it to
It's a
every
great one.
agent, especially when it comes with two profiles, so you could have another agent to partner up. So I love it,
Yeah.
especially, Jim Chamberlain out there. He's an amazing, amazing coach. So in regards to top producing teams, what kind of trends or systems do you see them implementing, involving ISAs in their teams?
Oh, great. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point, because I think we serve two different avatars within our company. One is a solo agent, right? Or a very small team, like maybe one or two people on the team, 1 to 3 people. So that's one of our avatars. And then we have the large teams. And I'm talking about 10, 15, 20, 30, even more agents on a single team. And their needs are just very, very different, right? Very different. The solo agents, the smaller teams, they have, many different avenues. It might be like database is their main source. They might do prospecting, they might do online. And as you get up higher in that hierarchy, you get to the very, very large teams. Those are dominated by inbound lead sources, internet leads. Whether they might own a Zillow Flex, license, right? They might be one of the lucky teams that do Zillow Flex, or they have a huge amount of Realtor.com, different portal leads, right? Because at scale, those are very expensive systems to own, to be a part of. It's a lot of them are invite only, like HomeLight and all the different sources. They get access to a lot of different lead sources that the solo agents just don't have access to, not anymore, right? So they have different needs. And the biggest ROI for a very large team is usually having an ISA turn more of those inbound opportunities, rekindle them, convert them into attended appointments, get them back on this calendar if they cancel, if they no-show. So it's really about optimizing that inbound lead flow. The large teams typically have really good processes, right? They have a process to follow. They've got training. They have people in specialized roles. An ISA comes in and helps them, like fix a leaky funnel, right? They have a lead funnel, people coming in, and then going meeting with their agents, trying to follow up with them, becoming clients. People drop off in every stage of the process. Having an ISA tighten up that process for teams is a huge win for them, because they have their systems dialed in, they have their training dialed in, they have their scripting dialed in. So even a 1% increase in their lead show up rate is a massive increase for their bottom line, right? It's not a 1% change in bottom line. It's multiples of that, right? Because more people meeting with their agents means more signed clients, means more buyers, more sellers for the team. So I think that's a huge opportunity for them, because they just have more complex systems in place.
How soon do you think a solo agent or a team should start considering getting an ISA for their business?
Oh, great. Really, really good question. And I think this question is different if you're a solo agent or a small team versus a very large team. So I'll start with the solo agent avatar. A solo agent should hire an ISA when they feel they've maxed out their personal database and they still want to scale, right? Because I think most agents should start at their personal database, SOI, and that's where most agents should start. But once they feel they've maxed that out, or the growth on that database just slows, because you tend to max it out at a certain point, and you want to add additional lead sources if you want to grow, that's when you should hire an ISA, right? Because it makes a lot of sense to do it then, because an ISA adds leverage to an existing lead system. right? Let me say that
Yeah.
again. The best use of an ISA is plugging them into a system that you know works, right? A really not a great use of an ISA is if you've never done cold calling and you hate calling, you hate the phone, and you hire an ISA hoping you never have to touch the phone again, right? That just doesn't work. I mean, I'd love for that to work. It'd be great, but it doesn't actually work. You've got to find a new lead source for yourself, whether that's expired for sale by owner, circle prospect, absentees, whether that's Facebook ads or Google ads, doesn't really matter to me. You have to find that out, discover it, close deals from it, and then you can add the ISA because that's when you're going to know if it's working or not. If you don't know how to convert Facebook leads and you hire an ISA and it's not working for you, how do you know what's not working? Is it the ads? Is it the copy? Is it the ISAs, the script? Is it your ability to close, right? There's too many variables, and most agencies don't have the patience and the time and the budget to figure it out, right? It's a very expensive way to figure these things out. So that's my biggest recommendation for solo agents. For teams, it's a no-brainer, Israel, to be super honest with you. Like they have specialization already built into the team, or they should. And another specialized role means they're able to add a lot more value to their agents, right? Like a lot more value by having an ISA helping hand off qualified opportunities to the agents. Agents love talking to buyers and sellers if they're responsive and they're motivated. We're the best ever. We're
Oh, yeah.
like world class. What agents are not great at is people that are not that. They're not motivated yet. They're not ready to talk real estate. They're in the early stages. That's why there's so much drop off. So the closer you can get your team to talking to only highly motivated buyers and sellers, the more successful you're going to be.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that. A lot of questions I get asked from agents is like, oh, it's a virtual assistant. Do they come trained already? Like, no, you have to train them. You have to develop. You have to show them your systems and how you do things. Like, oh, can I just hire a cold caller? Like, you can, but have you done it before? And they'll be like, no, isn't that what they're for? And like, no, it doesn't work that way. You still got to coach them and mentor them.
That's the biggest indicator of success is have you done it before and does it work for you? From being straight up, not that the ISA doesn't matter, they do. But the biggest indicator of success or failure that I've seen throughout years and years is, does the agent know how to close these cold leads, unmet leads? And if they do, it's just a question of connecting them with the right ISA and they're going to do well. Right? It's as simple as that, right? So I agree with you.
Awesome, awesome. And for clarification, do you help train and develop these ISAs for the team or the individual agent they're going to, or the industry they're going into?
Yeah, 100%. So, we have, trainers on staff. We help train every single person that we help place with our clients. But, and there's a big but here. We need your help with that, right? Because Israel, we don't know your market the way you do. We don't know your process the way you do. We can't come in and plug in an entirely different process into your business, right? That is destined to fail, okay? That's why I think it's so important to have a process in place, have a lead system in place, so your ISA plugs into your system, and we can help with that because we know how to set up the dialers, we know how to run the scripts, we know how to train people on new scripts, on systems, and the most common lead sources, we see them every day, right? We work with them all the time. But we don't know how real estate is done in your market. We don't know how Israel does his business, right? We don't know what is the strongest lead source for you. So that is why it's a partnership. I wouldn't say that, oh, PowerISA handles all the training and you just give us your credit card and then you're done. That's not true, right? I wish that were true. That's not accurate. We need your help on training these ISAs on your systems, your process, and your market.
Absolutely, definitely a partnership for sure. Gustavo, there's a lot of talk about AI, and I feel like AI has been growing like a mile per minute. In the last 2 years, it's been going like nonstop. What's your opinion in regarding AI? Do you think it's going to replace ISAs, or is it going to make them stronger or better?
So that's such a great question. And actually, I recently gave a talk on the subject, so I got it fresh in my mind. So I'll be super honest with you, is that when ChatGPT burst onto the scene, this was 3 years ago now. It's actually more than 3 years ago, and I was concerned that AI was going to replace ISAs, and I was not sure if AI was going to fully replace real estate agents. Quite frankly, right? I'm like, holy cow, this technology is amazing, right? AI chatbots, AI voice agents, AI, customer support, and AI salespeople. Like, where could it end? That was 3 years ago. Now in 2026, my opinion has changed. Okay, because I see AI. Instead of who is it going to replace and how many people do you not need anymore? AI is a tool. AI texting and AI voice are ways to generate more connections faster. Okay, it is a tool to generate more conversations and more relationships faster between real people. All right. My opinion has changed on that. I don't think anytime someone says AI is going to replace real estate agents or ISAs, I think it's almost laughable. I can almost chuckle at that. Like, of course not, right? But the AI enhanced agent and the AI enhanced ISA are able to build more relationships faster than the agents that don't have that, right? I think that's playing out right now, and I think that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I really hate all these AI text message, AI voice calls. It's just not personable anymore. I want to talk to
Yeah.
someone, and I don't care who it is, but I just want to talk to someone. And I think a lot of consumers are feeling that way. They're getting overwhelmed with
Yeah.
AI too, that they just want to talk to someone instead of that text message or the AI
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think, the desire of a lot of agents because this was a desire. People actually, agents wanted this. They wanted AI to take over their lead communication. I want AI to follow up my leads. I want AI to build a relationship. I want AI to hand it off to me. In fact, AI should just handle the transaction too. You know, sometimes it's weird for the industry. We're actually looking for ways to get ourselves out of the human relationship, right? And the consumer is, like you just said, Israel, is loudly saying, I don't want that. That's not what I want, actually. I don't feel it's a superior experience to talk to your AI assistant. It's not a better experience. Give me a real person. I want someone, an expert, a local expert, that's going to educate me, answer my questions, and help me find a great home, right? Or help me sell my home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. And and we can argue about this, why this is true, but for whatever reason, the consumer still wants people involved, right? And that's not, that has nothing to do with what we want as agents. It has nothing to do with that. It's what the consumer wants. And right now in 2026, in my opinion, they are loudly saying they want us involved. They want real people involved, and they prefer it. And just a little bit of background information. This back in 2023, I was genuinely concerned AI could replace the whole industry. Now, right, since then, since ChatGPT came out, PowerISA has almost tripled in size. Just to, like, some background there, right?
Wow.
Like, that tells you something, right? AI didn't come and take all of our jobs away. AI took a lot of tasks away. But that desire, that need for human connection is as great as ever before. In fact, in my humble opinion, it's increased over the last 3 years. It hasn't decreased, which is why I think we're helping more agents than ever before make those human connections, those personal connections, because that's what people want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI is like you said, it's a tool that is showing us more opportunity, but we need more hands to handle those opportunities, right? And that's why
Yeah,
ISA is coming.
absolutely. And all the vendors, actually, I'll say this: the reputable vendors that sell AI tools, AI bots, AI, systems, the reputable ones say, there's no way you're going to make this work without picking up the phone and building relationships with people, right? The AI does a great job at surfacing those people. Like I said, AI is great at generating more connections faster. It's still your job to build relationships, right? A connection is not a relationship. Be super honest
Right.
with that, right? And it still takes relationships to be successful in real estate. And we shouldn't look forward to automating ourselves out of that role. People want to talk to people about the biggest purchase of their life. It sounds silly to say that, but that was in doubt a year or 2 or 3 ago, right? We weren't sure about that. I think we're much more certain about that now.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Gustavo, I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but just all this acquisition and mergers in the industry right now. Um, how has that affected your business, ISAs, with either like helping agents grow their organization, the cloud-based brokerages? Yeah.
So, these acquisitions are fairly recent. I'll be honest, and I'll say I haven't seen any effect yet. Not yet. Not saying there's going to be changes coming in the industry soon, because they're getting in on it. So I'd say, I think the changes are yet to be seen, but it does remind me that for most agents, whether they're going to succeed or going to fail has relatively little to do with, whether they're in a cloud brokerage or a brick and mortar brokerage. I honestly believe that. I think that has, not that it doesn't influence, right? I think there's a lot of influence. For example, if you have run a large organization or a team, I think that has a lot to do with the right brokerage. But for most agencies, it's just about, are they talking to enough buyers and sellers every day? And your brokerage has surprisingly little to do with that. It's really about you, getting the education you need, the coaching you need, the feedback you need, the tools you need, and executing. And it has, surprisingly little to do with which brokerage absorbed which brokerage, right? Every week. And we're getting news like this every month, every week now. And I think that trend is going to continue throughout 2026, no doubt. What effect does that have on buyers and sellers and real estate agents? Very little, actually. Like so far.
Right, right. No, I definitely think, as long as agents are doing the work, all the outside noise, they shouldn't really worry about. Focus on your business, focus on building your pipeline, lead gen, growing your business, right? So Gustavo, you're a very animated guy. What helps you keep yourself motivated, keep going in the morning? What helps your mindset going, building this great company that you have?
Yeah, so I've thought a lot about that, because I don't think it was this animated or engaged in my previous role when I was a software engineer. I don't think I was, right, and I think it has a lot to do with doing something that's more aligned with your purpose. So I grew up in the U.S. and Mexico. Like I'm consider myself like a binational, bicultural person. So now that I work with these people every day, like everyone in my company has a similar background. Like we've had similar experiences, and I can go even deeper into that, but there's a lot there, right? There's a lot to unpack on this kind of bicultural, experience. I'm more aligned with my purpose than I've ever been in my life, right? And I just really, really mean that. And if that doesn't, if you're listening to this and you have no idea what that means, then you might not be in that role. You might be in the wrong place in your life, right? So I had to make a big change. I had to make a life change, right? I changed roles and industries, and I had to basically start over to find something that was a little bit more purposeful for me. Because I think if you're doing the right thing, the energy and the engagement just comes naturally. I don't think you have to make a big effort at it. So I'm doing something. I can honestly say in the role that I'm in, the job that I'm in right now, that I'm doing something like like something I was born to do, right? Like I can do better than anyone in the world, just because of my where I was born and my life experiences. Like that is true for me now, more true than it's ever been. I think that's a big reason.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's amazing, Gus. I see you all over social medias. I see you promoting your business, and I see a lot of people taking advantage of your services. And implementing them in their business. What are like some major success that would like to share to the community and how they became successful? Anything that stands out?
So, I got a couple ideas, recent like case study, because whenever we have like a really great result, we encourage our clients to release a case study, right? It's usually an interview. We show them the data. We tell them how they did it. Not everyone wants to do that, and I respect it, because not everyone wants to, kind of reveal what systems are working for them. I totally get that, but I'm always encouraged by the people that do. They take us up on that offer, because I publish these case studies, and I just published one this last week. So we're recording this last week, where a real estate team, right, built. They hired one ISA to begin with. Now they're at 10 ISAs. It's a very large team out of Florida, and they ran they started in late 2024, and earlier this year they released like they run like a corporate company. Like they run quarterly reports and yearly reports, and they measure ROI like a hawk. Like they are very intense about measuring their lead sources and what kind of return are they getting. And from their ISA team, 10-person team, they got a 42.5x ROI. Okay, 42.5x. 14 million in GCI attributed to appointments that their ISA team had set for the team. right? So I think that's a home run, right? That is, well, not even a home run. It's like a grand slam, 2 grand slams in an inning kind of home run, which is a great result, right? And that's only possible when you have the right leadership in place and you've got a really good team working like really valuable lead sources for them and just handing off opportunities like crazy, right? So that's a huge, huge win. And that was ISA's focusing only on inbound leads, right? Zillows and realtors and all the different lead sources, and just making sure that no lead was left behind. The team took advantage of every single opportunity. And that team is a very well-run team, and they have great scripting and follow-up. They have great systems on the agents. They just needed more people to talk to, okay? So that's a great recipe for a home run result like that, because they just needed more people to talk to, and I think ISAs are great at that. That's one example. Another recent one, solo agent, right? She's an agent out of Honolulu, Hawaii, Oahu, the middle island, not the big island, but the most populated island. And she built her business doing circle prospect, cold calling, right? And a pretty good business, 26 million a year in volume, one agent, right? And her husband's the assistant. So it's like a two-person team, but just one salesperson, one agent. And they had great business. She was successful, but cold calling every day is hard, right? It's not easy to do. It's not easy to build a business like that. She couldn't take one day off. She felt she couldn't miss one calling session because she felt her business was going to drop off, right? And she really liked, making $500,000-600,000 a year. That's a great lifestyle, even in Hawaii, right? It's
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we were able to help her build, was I think a 3-person ISA team, and she was able to retire from cold calling. She stopped. She didn't have to do it anymore because her 3-person team, right, would generate the same. It took 3, again, kudos to her. It took 3 people to replace her, right? At a reasonable cost. And now she's just able to follow up and convert the leads. She doesn't have to do the cold outreach anymore. She just focuses on hand raisers, motivated sellers that are living in Hawaii, right? Living in Oahu. They're thinking of selling their condo, their property, whatever it is, right? She just talks to the hand raisers. She went from doing 300-400 calls a day to doing 3 calls a day to any of the new people that her ISA team gives her, right? Every single day. So I think that's, a huge win for her, because she's able to just enjoy life more, right? In general.
Right. I see you have a lot of books back there. Which one is one of your favorite books back there?
All of them. Like so I've interviewed some of the writers of some of these books. This is a recent one I added, Team Leader Secrets by Sunita, a client of mine. And he's right. A lot of agents publish books. And, and I don't want to knock anybody, but some of these books are not very good. Just to be super honest with you. AI wrote it for them or some kind of ghostwriter wrote it for them. It's not good. This was a really great book, Team Leader Secrets by Sunita, because he actually wrote it. He actually wrote and he put some effort into it. And you can always tell, like a really good book takes 1 or 2 years to write. Okay? 1 or 2 years to write. And actually, I knew some of the anecdotes from that book because I've worked with them for so long. So that was a joy. Recent book that just came out. Great one. I've got one here from Coach Barry Jenkins, Too Nice for Sales. Probably the best Facebook lead conversion book ever written. Too Nice for Sales by Barry. Great guy, friend of the company. This one over here, this is Real Estate Prospecting by Tristan Ahumada, another really well-known figure in the real estate industry. Tristan's great. He's a master marketer, I would call a master marketer. And this book goes over like the top marketing strategies for real estate agents, whether that's your personal database, whether that's online, organic online social media, paid online social media, even some prospecting in there, right? So it's a great book, like a great marketing book. And I could go on and on, but those are some recent favorite ones. And I had the privilege of interviewing and meeting the authors and talking to them. They're just great books. But a book is only as good as like what you learned from it, right? So I think the book really matters if it speaks to the problem you're trying to solve in your life. That's when the book really hits home. So I'd say each one of these books behind me helped me in a different moment in my life, right? A different moment, different problem, different market. Here's the Shift book. I had to reread this book back in 2022. I read it, Shift by Gary Keller. Because the market was changing. The market changed in 2022. We went from a flaming hot post-COVID sellers market to a more balanced market with
Oh
6 and
yeah.
7, 8% interest rates, right? That was a big shift in
Oh
2022.
yeah.
So these books have helped me out in different moments, and they're great ones.
Yeah. And just a quick question. Back in, in those glory years, post-COVID years, seller years, when, prices were selling highest and best, what would you say ISAs were focusing around that time frame? Because expired listing were, I wasn't really kind of in the market
Not
looking at
not
that.
that many. Yeah, Israel. I had clients of mine that this is January of 2022. They told me, I'm giving up on for sale by owner. I'm giving up on expired. There's too few of them, and the sellers are just out of their mind, right? Because if you were
Yeah.
expiring or if you were a physical, you couldn't sell in January 2022, there was something seriously wrong with you or the home or both, probably, right? So yeah, the market. I mean, we adapt to the market of that moment, right? And the market of that moment did not favor prospecting. I'm super honest with you; it was not great.
Yeah.
We're mostly focused on inbound, right? Because that's where you had people tripping over themselves to come in and try and buy one of these homes, right? The bidding wars, multiple offers, right, and just trying to find qualified buyers that could actually compete. That was the harder part. So that's where we added, I think we had a lot of value and helped out a lot of teams. But we adapt to the market of the moment. And even right now, right? Like right now, in general, the US is a more balanced market than in 2022, except if you're like, for example, the Northeast of the US, like Northeast, New Jersey, New York, Maine, Connecticut, hottest sellers market we've ever seen there in the moment.
Oh
Because
wow.
real estate is local, right? Like I can talk, I
Absolutely.
look at the whole country because I look at national trends because I work with the whole country. Most agents probably shouldn't care what's happening in the whole country. They should care what's happening in your market, right? Your city, your county, maybe your state, maybe, right? But it's really about your local market. So you should be an expert there. But yeah, we adapt to the market of the moment. And at any given moment, you might see places like Miami, South Texas that are really strong buyers markets, or you might see, Newark, New Jersey, Connecticut, which are really hot sellers market at the same time. It's a very big country.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the reason why I kind of got into cold calling right after like around 2003, 2004. I noticed my business wasn't going as it was in 2020, 2020, 2021, 2022. I was like, man, I need to do something quick, And I discovered cold calling, discovered Vocal 7. I've been doing a lot of expired listings, circle prospecting. That's how my business has been definitely increased since then. Um, a couple of last questions for you, Gus. I know you're busy. What do you think is better, Facebook leads or Google leads? Inbound.
Oh wow, that's a really good question. That's a really good marketing question, right? So I've worked with both, right? Helping agents work with both, but actually I've worked with both as a business owner, right? I've generated leads from Google pay per click, and I actually started only Google pay per click. Now I've transitioned over to Facebook. So there's a reason behind that. So I think in general, I think there's some things that are true, like overall in general. I think Google-based leads in general have more intent on average than like a Facebook lead, right? I think that's true. I think that is true. Because you're searching for something very specific, you can buy a very specific keyword, and I think those are priced accordingly, right? If you have a very specific, real estate agent in San Diego, California, if you want to buy that keyword, it's an expensive keyword. Like
Wow.
if you're buying that, like people that are looking for agents right now in San Diego, that lead is going to cost you several $100s, probably, right? Because it's a very high price market and it's a very valuable keyword. And then Google depends on your whole ability to have like a landing page, a funnel, and your conversion ability. It's very dependent on that. Facebook is very different, right? Like Facebook is interruption based marketing. Facebook is like wide open, right? Because people,
Mhm.
for a lot of reasons, they're catching up, they're being social, they're getting their news. Amazingly, they're discovering stuff, they're playing games, they're doing a million things on Facebook, and they see an ad, and it's like coming out of nowhere, right? In a lot of ways. Over these last few years, I think the Facebook algorithm has gotten so good at identifying intent and who you are, and it knows. I think some of these social media tools know us better than we know ourselves, right? Like
Oh, I
and
100% agree.
yeah, at serving you like these kinds of ads. And one thing that has tipped the scale for me for Facebook and Meta is that I put most of my content there. Okay. So it's not just an ad being served on who knows who this person is, but the algorithm is very smart. It typically shows these ads to people that are interacting with my content. And I get hundreds of thousands of views every month, right? So it's like helping me pick that low-hanging fruit because the algorithm wants people that are already interested in Power ISA, right? So I'm going to get a much higher conversion rate because all of my content, and I put content on every major platform, but I'm native to Facebook. I'll be super. I'm an older millennial here. Like I'm not, I don't spend a ton of time on Instagram or Snapchat or any of these, like TikTok, not a ton. I publish on all those, but I don't spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, right? Interacting with clients, with real estate agents, with my audience. So for me, Meta ads is by far a much better investment because all my content tends to be there. My engagement tends to be there. And a lot of people follow me. I have like 15, 20,000 followers on Facebook. So if I'm kind of tipping the scale there on the answer because it works great for me because of those reasons. If I strictly was going to go on who has higher intent, Google probably wins, right? Google AdWords. But if you have any kind of content-based marketing, right? Like, hey, you should put ads where the content is. And maybe that's YouTube for you, right? Maybe a bunch of YouTube content. Great. Put ads on YouTube. That's where most of your people are coming from. So I don't know if that answers your question, Israel, but I think it's a really big it depends question, right? Because it depends.
Yeah.
If you're starting from a blank slate, the answer changes. If you're invested in one of these platforms, double down on that, right? That's where people are coming. If people are coming to you organically off of one of these platforms, that's a great way to do it. So I still spend money on Google. On Google pay-per-click. Not every single month because we get a lot of SEO people coming through SEO. So nothing helps your SEO than also showing up on the paid results too. Like, oh man, this guy's everywhere, right? But most of my budget goes to Meta right now for those reasons.
Yeah. I kind of personally love Facebook better too. Easier. I don't know. I just like it more. Gus, where can people connect with you and learn more about PowerISA?
Yeah, so PowerISA, the best place is our website, powerisa.com. You can even book a call, if you want a free demo consultation on how an ISA can help you out. And if you want to check me out and my content, Facebook is the place for everything, all the reasons I just said, right? I'm on Facebook every day, multiple times a day. That's a great way to reach out to me, interact with my content. You can always DM me. I don't get to everyone right away, but I do get back to everyone, right? Me or someone from my team. So Facebook is the number one. You can probably find me on every major platform at this point, but me, Gustavo, is going to be on Facebook every day, right? Gustavo Munoz Castro, my full name. So look for me out there. I've always kept the big name because, like, hey, if people find me, they're going to know it's me. Who else is going to have this huge Hispanic name, on their Facebook profile? It's great for disambiguation. I'll tell you that.
Yep. And you also have a Facebook group, right?
Yes. Yeah. Power ISA Marketing Mastermind. That's where I do all of my interviews. I publish all of my content, so that's a great location. You guys can jump on there as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely watch. I do watch a lot of your interviews. They're great. I know who you're talking about, the young lady in Hawaii. I did watch her interview. It was amazing. I was very inspired by that. So no, thank you so much, Gus. It was a pleasure to sit down with you and talk to you. I wish you nothing but success. I look forward to all of our agents to reach out to you and kind of seek your services. Well, thank you once again, Gus. We'll talk soon, okay?
Right. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Gus. Bye-bye.